Yes lads, what is going on? Welcome back to another Sorare video. Today I'm going to be presenting to you 10 budget players that can help you win this $500 first place prize in the European Championship semi-pro competition starting this Friday on Sorare. So leave a like if you do enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel. If you are completely new to Sorare and you are yet to sign up, there will be a link in the description of this video. If you click the link and you sign up that way, it does help me out and it will help you out as well. We've got 10 players that I'm going to present to you, which, they might not be the best players in the world. But this point now in this Sorare cycle, I guess, for these Euro cards, there's not many cheap cards left, if I'm being honest. A lot of the Euro prices of cards have gone up considerably, especially the higher end cards, but even some of the cheaper ones. But I do think there's still a few, not bargains, but there's definitely a few cheaper cards to be had to help you guys, enter this European competition for the semi-pro side of things. Now, on screen right now, you can see the breakdown of the prize pools. How do I play semi-pro? This competition is only open if you have a maximum of 10 pro cards in your collection. Lineups consist of 4 common cards and 1 limited. So effectively, to enter this competition, you literally only need 1 limited card in your Sorare gallery. So if you're brand new, or if you've had Sorare for a while but you don't have any actual cards, to play this European Championship semi-pro competition, you literally only need 1. The other 4 cards are common cards, and so anyone can kind of get their hands on those. Those don't cost any money at all. And I thought it would be interesting to have a look at 10 of the more cheaper cards that should be playing at the Euros, that should do relatively well at the Euros, in my opinion, for the price that you're playing for these cards, to get yourself entered into, this semi-pro competition. I think it's a really interesting competition to kind of get introduced to Sorare Pro. Of course, we have Sorare Rivals, and that's free to play, and that's great. But Sorare Pro is where, the money's made, if that makes sense, and where you can win some incredible prizes, right? Like 500 quid cash, plus a tier 0, which is basically either like Haaland, Mbappe, Bruno Fernandes, Rodri, Foden, Yamal, any of the incredible players, Jude Bellingham, of course, any of the really good players in world football right now, you would win, one of them plus the 500 quid cash if you finish first in this semi-pro comp. And yeah, this competition is only open for players who have 10 or less cards, which is crazy, I think. I think the amount of cash that is on offer here is ridiculous, considering it's only open for players with 10 or less cards, and technically you only need 1. Of course, you're going to still need like good scores from your players, but the fact that the barrier to entry is literally buying 1 card, I think is really interesting, and it could be a nice little way for new users to kind of get into Sorare if you're watching this. Yeah, on a low budget, I think it really, really helps sort of engage you and understand the game a bit better on, like I said, a very low budget. So the first player we're going to discuss is Luca Modric. You can currently pick up his limited card for £8. And of course, he is, the main player for Croatia, right? He takes penalties, corners, free kicks. Despite being 38, everything still runs through him. And don't get me wrong, they're not in the easiest of groups. Of course, Italy, Albania, Spain. But, for that Albania game, that could be a really interesting card, to play into this European Championship semi-pro competition. He's definitely not the cheapest card on this list. But as far as quality of player, if Croatia does get a penalty or does get a free kick in a decent position, he is going to be in and around that. And his AA game, is really good as well on Sorare. So for me, for £8, I think it's not a bad entry ticket into, a competition like this. Next up is Florian Kainz. Now, this guy is a lot cheaper than Modric. He's currently £1.66. Now, I'm definitely not saying that he's going to start that first game against France. He's somebody that features now and again for Austria. As you can see, he played 45 minutes in the most recent friendly game against Switzerland. He actually got an assist as well, which is not bad. He plays in the Bundesliga for Cologne. He's a good player. He's been around for a while. He's not exceptional. He's not going to set the world alight. Hence why he's £1.66. But I think it's somebody that could potentially play a decent role for Austria, whether that is a starting role, whether that is off the bench. As you can see, he came off the bench here against Estonia, and then here he played 45 minutes against Azerbaijan. He was a sub against Belgium. This is a few months ago now. But yeah, look, I'm not saying he's a guaranteed starter for Austria, but he is somebody that, even if he comes off the bench, he is able to get assists, get key passes, etc. He is somebody that is a bit of a dead ball specialist as well. And like I said, for the price, I think it's an interesting entry point if you were needing to buy 1 card for this competition. £1.66 isn't necessarily breaking the bank, and he's somebody that could have an effect, whether that is starting or of course whether that is coming off the bench. Next up is Manchester United's and Denmark's Christian Eriksen, 32 years old, one of the main players for Denmark, despite not really playing for United much. Played against Sweden in one of the most recent fixtures for Denmark, and yeah, scored 100 points. So 100 points is the maximum point you can score on Sorare. So he's obviously doing something right. He played 27 minutes against Norway. He is part of a decent squad there. They play Slovenia, England and Serbia. I think Denmark have a decent chance of getting through in their group. And you can get him for £8, so a very similar price to Modric. Again, somebody that plays in the Premier League. I know he doesn't start every game, of course, for United, but he's a proven international player. And he is a player that is trusted over corners, free kicks, etc. And so, yeah, he is a good player on Sorare. Like, if he's going to start games for Denmark, I'd like to think he is going to score pretty well. That England game is going to be pretty tough for Denmark, but the Slovenia game, the first game, and the Serbia game, the third game, I definitely think Christian Eriksen could provide a really interesting entry point into that competition for you. In fourth, we've got Tomas Soucek. His limited right now is £4.14, and he is the captain of the Czech Republic national side, who of course is playing at the Euros in Portugal, Georgia and Turkey's group. Of course, they're not the best team in that group. I think Portugal probably walk that group on paper, but I do think they could sneak in as maybe second or third place in that group quite comfortably, to be honest. They haven't got the best of sides, but he is, the main player in that side. And look, I don't think he's going to score unbelievably well. Like, he scores good in the Premier League for West Ham. For his country, he's going to be okay. Like, he's not going to be somebody that's going to be taking penalties and corners, etc. But you can see here, he scores goals. The guy does just score goals. He's just somebody that pops up with goals, right? He scored again here against Faroe Islands. Didn't score here against Albania. But somebody that, for the price, half the price of Eriksen, again, could provide an interesting entry point into the Euro game for you guys. Next up is Piotr Zielinski, who's most recently moved from Napoli to Inter. It hasn't actually updated on here yet, but of course he plays for the Polish national side. And his price is currently £5.80 for a limited card. Poland are in the Netherlands, Austria and France group. Very, very tough group. It is probably the group of death, but you can still qualify for the knockout rounds if you do finish in the better place third positions. And so, yeah, it's basically Austria and Poland for third place here. If they can get enough points, they will go through. Proven European level footballer, if we're being honest, and on the international stage as well for Poland. Look, they're not the best of teams, Poland. I think Lewandowski is actually ruled out for the first game after getting injured in a friendly game yesterday, actually. So, yeah, not good for him. But I think that kind of benefits Zielinski in some ways. Maybe he'll take the penalties. Now that Lewandowski has been ruled out, as you can see here, they beat Estonia 5-1. He scored 100 points. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen in the Euros because they're not playing anybody of the level of Estonia. They're playing Austria, France and the Netherlands. But for £5 or just under £6, again, could provide an interesting player, not only for these Euro competitions, but maybe for Inter next season. He's a proven Serie A player. There's a reason why Inter want to buy him. And yeah, I think he's an interesting option. I'm not saying he's the best option, but he's definitely somebody to explore. Next up is Vitaliy Mykolenko. Of course, plays for Everton, left back for them, and of course plays for the Ukrainian national side. And they're in the group with Romania, Slovakia, and Belgium. Probably one of the easier groups, I think. You'd like to think Belgium probably go through as first seed, but I think Ukraine could sneak second place here quite comfortably. He is actually starting right now as I speak in a friendly, I think against Moldova for Ukraine. So yeah, somebody, as you can see by his graph, can score very, very well. He's defensively solid. He'll get those tackles, interceptions, duels won. And then maybe barring the Belgium game, I think Ukraine have a decent shot of getting clean sheets in that Romania and Slovakia game if they can play it right. His price is currently £3.59, so he's a defender card, of course. I think for the price, he's at a really, really interesting spot because I'd be shocked if he doesn't start for Ukraine, to be honest. Premier League, proven defender. There's no way you're not going to play him. I think he could provide an interesting defender option and a nice little entry point into this semi-pro competition. Next up is ex-Tottenham player Ivan Perisic. Currently plays for Hajduk Split in the Croatian league. Of course, he is getting on a bit. Not as old as Modric, but he is 35 years old. But somebody that is still a proven international player and domestic as well. £3 for his classic card. Now, I'm not saying he's going to start every single game for Croatia, right? They're in a tough group, but there's no guarantee he's going to play all 3 games, right? I don't think his legs can really do that. Now, he'll definitely feature somewhere. I'm not necessarily sure where that'll be, whether that'll be against Albania in the quote-unquote easier game, or will he be trusted in that first game against Spain? He very well could play all 3. I don't really know. I'm just kind of spitballing here. £3 for his classic card. Again, I think it's an interesting entry point. He hasn't really played a ton of football. He did actually do his ACL not too long ago, but he has played since for Hajduk Split, and he has played in both Croatia friendlies against North Macedonia and Portugal. I don't know whether this is definitely going to be the Croatian side that is going to go out and play Spain on that opening day. Of course, Kramaric played left wing that day. Whether Perisic comes in for him, potentially. But he's, again, somebody that could easily get decisives, goals, assists off the bench. You're not kind of dead and buried if he doesn't play. Of course, if he doesn't play any minutes, then obviously you're dead and buried. But I do think he'll definitely feature in every game, I would say. Whether that's starting, whether that's coming off the bench, it's very hard to say, of course. But for £3, I think you can't go wrong. Next up is Shaqiri, whose classic card price is just over £4. Somebody that, to be fair, domestically in the MLS, he hasn't been very good, if I'm being honest. I'm somebody that does like to watch my MLS football, and he's just not been great. But he is somebody that loves playing for Switzerland. There's something about Shaqiri playing for Switzerland in big tournaments. He does seem to turn up a lot of the time. As you can see here, he actually scored 83.7 points against Estonia in a friendly, and then he came off the bench against Austria. Got himself 6 AA, which is quite respectable, to be fair. Nothing crazy. But somebody that, again, whether that's featuring off the bench or starting, he loves to take corners. He loves to take free kicks. He is, to be honest, still the main man, I would say, for Switzerland. Despite being 32 now, despite playing in the MLS, I do think at £4, he could be an interesting option. Now, they're in a group with Germany, Hungary, and Scotland. I think Switzerland have a decent chance of getting through this group quite comfortably in second place. And so, yeah, Shaqiri could provide definitely an option in that Hungary game and Scotland game. Of course, it's going to be tough against Germany. For £4, he could be a really interesting option. Next up is Georgiy Tsitaishvili. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name very well, so apologies if I've just butchered his name. He does play for Georgia, and he does play for Watford in the Championship, so some nice challenger utility from him. He is under 23 technically as well until June 30th, despite being 24 years old. There's no classic cards on sale right now of his, but you can buy his new season card, which I said doesn't really make a difference right now whether this new season or classic, because the whole European season is done. These new season cards that are displayed on Sorare data will turn into classic cards in August. Well, technically they already are classic cards. But anyway, just under £2 for his card. Georgia could be the dark horses of this tournament. Now, they're in a tough group, right? Portugal is probably going to walk this group if we're being honest. And then you've got Turkey and the Czech Republic. Not an easy group for Georgia, but I do think they will show a good account of themselves. They got some really interesting players. They've got Kravadona, of course, who plays for Napoli. They've got Mika Tuezi, who plays for Metz. And I think Georgie comes into the conversation as well. He's somebody that scored relatively well in the Championship. Not incredibly well, but he is a midfielder that does like to score goals, does like to tackle, and does like to get assists. And that is kind of what we're looking for here, right, on the Sorare scoring matrix. And so, yeah, I'm not saying he's going to set the world alight. I'm not saying that he's going to be Georgia's best player. But for £2, again, we're just talking about entry-level players for this semi-pro competition, right? I'm trying to show you guys some real budget options that, don't break the bank, and you're not necessarily outlaying a whole ton of cash to get yourself, involved in a competition like this, which I think, a £2 entry into a competition that you could technically win. A tier 0 card could be a $500 card. It could be an Mbappe, right? You could basically win $1,000 from, buying a £2 or $2 limited card in Georgie. And I'm not saying you're going to do that, but, the possibilities are there. Like, it is possible to do that. Combine 4 common cards with that, which everybody has common cards. And so, yeah, I think he's an interesting option. I'm not saying he's the best option, but I do think he was worth a mention on this list. And then last up, we have Slovakia's Duda, who plays for Hellas Verona in the Champion region on Sorare. His current price is £1.66, which I think is ludicrous, honestly. They do have a tough group. They are in the group with Belgium, Ukraine, and Romania. So I don't think Slovakia could finish in that 3rd place, to be honest. I don't think they're going to beat Ukraine or Belgium. But the interesting thing with him is he is the penalty taker for Slovakia, which if you look over the history of, World Cups and Euros, there is a ton of penalties scored. That's most of the time how these international games are separated, right? Teams are very, very evenly matched, and most games are quite tight, and most games are decided by penalties. And I think he is an interesting one at £1.66. They just battered my home nation Wales 4-0 in a friendly. He played 71 minutes. He scored okay, 11.2 AA. Nothing crazy. 3 attempted assists. He is somebody, as well as taking penalties, he does take corners as well. So I'm not saying he's definitely going to play all 3 games. I'm not somebody that's massively clued in with Slovakian football, but judging off, where he's playing domestically, in Serie A, judging off, what he's done in the friendlies, I do think he has a very good chance of playing in this tournament. And for the price, I genuinely think he is probably the best pickup, in my opinion. This is not financial advice. I've actually picked up a rare myself. I bought him over a week ago as a bit of a filler midfielder, just in case, my other players maybe get injured. I do have a Modric rare card, for example. If he got injured or if he's rested, then I could potentially play my Duda. Now, I don't think he's going to be a great asset in that Belgium game, but for the Ukraine and Romania games, who knows? He could be a really interesting player. And at that price, I think he's a really, really viable option. Right, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great game week. I'm massively looking forward to this European competition starting Friday. Let me know if there's any players that I've missed out on this list. I'm sure there's going to be a few gems that I haven't featured. Please do let me know in the comment section if you have any ideas that could potentially help some beginners as well. So, have a great day, lads, and I shall see you guys in the next video.